Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another interview. I got my good brother Nick Hamilton here today. You've seen him. If you watch sports, you've seen this man. Let's just start there. He's all over the TV. He's been a sports journalist, a sports analyst for as long as I've known him, and I think he may have been doing this even longer than I have. But if you don't know who he is, I'm talking about Mr. Nick Hamilton on Instagram. Nick Hamilton LA is what he goes by. I appreciate you joining us, my brother. Thank you, man.
Hey man, thank you. I got to say one thing though. I do sports and entertainment, so
That's right. That's right. That's right.
gotta make sure we put that in there.
Yeah, I don't trust his hip hop recommendations, but sports, man, you know what I'm saying? You're not messing with you. Right on, man. So man, like I said, thank you again for joining us. For people who don't know you, why don't you go ahead and tell them where you're from and what you do?
Oh damn! First of all, man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm as he said, I am a reporter, host, content creator, in the world of sports, entertainment, uh, culture, tech, politics. Um, I've been in this business now 15 years. I
Yeah.
also founded Nightcast Media, which will be upcoming our 5-year anniversary in the next couple of months. So, um, just been involved in. I mean, I'm born and raised in LA. I've been in the city my entire life, so I've seen things come, I've seen them go, I've seen ups and downs, smiles and frowns, um, and just been able to kind of watch the evolution of my city, watch the evolution of this game, this business, um, and really make continue to be on the campaign trail to get to the top. And so when you watch things happen, good and bad, over the course of time, I've learned from these events, whether they've happened to me directly or people around me that I've seen, to be able to just be the best that I know how to be.
Now, when you say from LA, I gotta ask a question for people who watching this, because that can mean anywhere, right? You can be from the Valley, you can be
Right,
from Glendale or whatever the
right.
case may be. What are we talking about when you say you're from LA? What area?
For the first 7 years of my existence, when I became an Earthling, I resided in Carson, and then we moved from Carson to the L.A. Inglewood area, which is known as the Crenshaw District, right there on that border of L.A. Inglewood, right? So, um, like I said, I got a family from Compton. I got most of my family's from the east side of Long Beach, um, and then obviously out of state. So, going down there when I was in high school and,
Where'd you go to high
back and
school at?
forth. I went to Westchester, went to Crenshaw, ended up going to high school at Southwest College called Southwest Middle
I
College.
know exactly what that is. Yep.
Yeah. And then see, 12th grade, my mom didn't want me there because,
It's in the hood. I know. Yeah.
well, no, not even that. It's just my great aunt who was the counselor there, she was retiring. So she kind
Okay.
of kept an eye on me.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
now
Right.
my mom and my folks were like, well, nobody's really there to keep an eye out on you. So we got to put you somewhere where somebody we know can keep an eye on you. So I went to this private school that was a complete disaster. But I got to see, I have some really great friends that I met, and I hated school. So I wanted to get out as quickly as I could. So they basically made a deal with me and said, hey, if you can find some place you can go for your second semester and graduate, um, we'll back you. So I went
So
to
so let's talk about that. How were you as a kid? Were you troubled? Were you a good
um,
kid?
you know what? It was as Kendrick would say, good kid, mad city. I think growing up in in the 90s it was wild, it was fun, and it was dangerous. There was a time when the riots had popped off, gang banging was at its height.
Right.
You still had drug activity, but then you also had other alternatives as well. So I think it was a balance. But yeah, I got caught up in some things that I had no business doing. When my audiobook drops, we'll talk about that more in depth.
Okay.
But
All right.
just things I had no business doing, and it cost me um situations. It cost me opportunities.
Mhm.
Growing up. And it was at a point, and we really didn't understand about mental health and the effects of mental health or
Right.
mental awareness. So I was at a point where I wasn't a depressed individual, but I didn't at that time I didn't care if I lived or died. So
Mm.
there were
How
things
old are
and
we
incidents
talking around this time? Like it's just for reference.
between 13 and 18, be honest
Okay.
with you.
Yeah, just teenage
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So and then you have the trauma of growing up in the socioeconomic conditions that most young black males grow up in.
Yeah.
And so either you're dealing with gang members or you're dealing with the two biggest gangs, which are the LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Department.
Right.
So you have to pick your poison, right? And so growing up in that environment, we don't realize how much trauma and how many things we are desensitized by as we grow older.
Yeah.
That we should not be.
I agree. You know, I represent Inglewood, California, and I live in a few places, including the IE for a little bit, but I hail from Inglewood, and it's a difference. You know, it's like a fish in water, right? Until you take them out, you don't know, the fish don't even know it's in water until you put them on land. So, so I mean, I know you now as a professional, right? And when you were young, did you get involved in any gang activity or any
I mean,
of that
like
stuff?
I said, I did some things that I had no business doing, but it was more like family. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because a lot of
always.
family members are engaged in certain
Affiliation more
activities.
than a
And
part.
it
Right.
was like I said, it was
You were twisting your fingers, Nick.
like I said,
Yeah.
I got involved in some things that I shouldn't have got involved in or even been a part of, I should say.
Yeah,
Even just be
yeah.
a part of it.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And it cost me. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
It was a time where I got shot at.
Mhm.
You know, I've never pulled a drive-by. I've never, shoot
Right,
them up.
right.
Nah, I'm more like with these.
Right.
Um,
Old
if
school.
anything
Right.
else. I did carry stuff on me. But at that time, but
You know what's crazy about that? Because even so, you know, we watch movies like Friday,
Mhm.
and in Friday he says you got to, carry a gun. He wasn't affiliated with no gang. It
nah,
was just the culture and protection.
but you knew the way the Smokey dressed and the way Craig dressed, you knew there was certain colors you weren't gonna wear in that particular neighborhood.
For sure,
right?
for
So
sure.
even though, so that was a subliminal. If you're from LA, it's almost like the saying goes, if you know, you know. Like those that were outside of LA or Southern California, if you watch Friday, you're like, oh, he's just wearing blue and gray, or yeah, he's just wearing like a black and gray kind of Pendleton looking shirt. Like, yeah. But you didn't see an ounce of red in that,
No.
right, or burgundy, right?
Right.
There's a reason for that, right? And it's funny that you mentioned Friday because when I was younger, they were actually filming it down the street from the school I went to. So being a couple of homies at the time, we went down there to try to see if we could find, see if we could run across Cube or Chris Tucker
Right.
or what have you. And we saw them filming. Like we saw, Debo, because he was actually literally sitting on his bike. I guess they were waiting to film a scene. So we were kind of, I would say, as close to that block as we could get before they had to like cut everybody off. So we saw Debo, we saw DJ Pooh, we saw F. Gary Gray because he was like walking up and down the street. And my homeboy's like, man, I think that's F. Gary Gray. And we saw Debo, but we never saw Ice Cube. We never saw Chris Tucker. So I don't know if they weren't filming that day or they were in their trailer or whatever. But we did see that, you could see them filming, right? And so it was wild because we were like, wow, this was we didn't know it at the time, but we were part of history, just watching history being made. And then, like I said, I had homies that we would get together and we would, I ended up going to the Friday premiere, so it was crazy because when you just knowing people, and it was on just strictly like somebody knew somebody who knew somebody. And so, like I said, it was fun. It was wild. It was dangerous. At that time in the 90s, gangster rap had really
it consumed
had its height.
Yeah.
But it was nothing to me. I didn't see anything wrong with gangster rap because it was just reporting what we already saw.
Mm-hmm.
We went through it, or somebody went through what they were talking about, even if they already went through it prior to. So it was just when the corporations began to corrupt it.
It's I heard this before. It used to be that entertainment in general, or music, let me just say music, was just kind of telling the story of what was happening. Now it's the opposite, right? People are acting out what they're hearing versus what it used to be. It used to be just kind of this, which revealing what's happening. Now we're making what's happening because we're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, and plus, like, it wasn't as blatant. Like, you would get the subliminals. You would get whether you listen to Mac 10 or you were listening to King T.
Yeah, they wasn't gang banging on. They wasn't banging on wax.
Snoop. Yeah, like Murder Was the Case. Like, who got some gangster shit?
Yeah.
Like, if you listen to that song, you could pay attention to the things that they would see. My family being from that side of town, I picked up on it because I'm
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, we went there. Okay, the dairy is on that street. Yeah, we went over. So you if you even had an inkling of that region, like first time I went to VIP Records, like I was mesmerized,
Yeah.
right? Like my cousin took me to VIP. And I was like, that's the same stage, that's the same roof that Snoop was doing. What's my name? You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? And it was like a world famous, like Craig Mack, big, Biggie Smalls, rest in peace. They all went there. Um, Warren G, like the Twins, the Dove Shack, like, the Dog Pound, like everybody that you can imagine had been through the VIP, right? So to be in that space at that time, um, this is pre 7-Eleven, obviously, but that space was like VIP, like that's where you go. Then they had the fish market would be right there. Then it was the barber shop, and so you saw um even before it became popular to be ownership or an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
you had witnesses of what could be done if you
Right in
were an
front of you.
entrepreneur,
And I think that's the beautiful part of LA. I tell my mom all the time. She like, it's so expensive. I say, Mom, but I'm motivated. Every time I walk out, I see a Bentley. I see somebody with a mansion. It just kind of it keeps me inspired. And in a sense, doesn't I don't allow I'm not allowed to be comfortable. Essentially.
yeah,
But
yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm motivated by not failing. When I
yeah.
see a person that's unfortunately down on their luck, or you going through, you driving through maybe a impoverished environment, I'm like, hell no, I don't want to be that.
Right. Right.
So that to me, in addition to what you're saying, because I agree, I think in addition to what you're saying, like you see the houses, or when you see
Lamborghinis. I mean,
yeah,
you can't help but
oh, of course, of
yeah,
course,
you're around it.
of course. But I think also too, I think the balance for me is just like, damn, dude, I don't want to be that. I'm not going to
Right.
be that.
Right.
So what do I have to do not to be that?
Right. Right.
And still listen and pay attention, because obviously something they did or maybe didn't do unfortunately got them to that point. So
Yeah,
you
I
got
heard
to
a wise man say. He said somebody wrote the big book of failures. They think it'll sell more than the big book of success, right?
hmm
Which is interesting.
good.
But
Good.
I want to ask you. So okay, still in your childhood, now you're out of high school. I'm sure you didn't have this whole I want to be a journalist down, right? What were you thinking you're about to do after you graduated?
It's interesting that you say that, because I kind of had an inkling of that, because once I graduated Cobo Adult School, I got out at the end of April, right? Like I never will forget it, the anniversary of the riots. It was April 29th. And I got out. That was my last day. I was like, they're like, oh, we'll see you in June. I was like, probably not.
Right.
Getting the hell up out of here. Deuces. But in 11th grade, it was a teacher named Mr. Strauss. He was Larry Strauss. And I was on a school newspaper at the time. So I would do the entertainment section of the newspaper,
Mhm.
right? And so I would do music reviews. I would do just whatever stories that were going on in movies or music at that time. And it was a lot of Black culture going on at that time, right? Like almost every other night you have a Black TV show or some type of sitcom on television.
Right. Right.
Right. Or some new music would be dropping on Tuesday. That's when music would drop on Tuesdays, when the source would drop, give you
BET was hot during that time too.
BET,
Yeah.
exactly. And you had BET, you had Rap City, you
Yeah.
had the Source magazine, who
Yeah.
gave you 4 or 5 mics, who got who didn't get the 5 mics. That's when the Source Awards had popped off famously.
Yeah.
When your man Suge Knight said what he said.
Right.
And
Right.
then also too, people forget Andre 3000 made sure he put the South on the map when he made his famous statement.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on at that time, and
Hip hop was growing. And it was
hip
spreading.
hop was
Yeah.
elevating at
Yeah.
alarming rates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you had the whole R&B collab with hip hop, and it was just a beautiful situation. And so I remember one day I turned in this article, and he looked at it. I was like, oh damn, I didn't. Okay, he ain't feeling it. All right, whatever. And he's like, nah, minus a couple typos. He's like, man, this is actually really good. I was like, yeah, right. He's like, no, man, I'm telling you. And I didn't know what his background was, right? I just thought he was a teacher, right? This is a white guy who was, talented at writing, but I didn't know his background. This man used to write for cartoons for like G.I. Joe and Transformers, and some other things, right? So I didn't know the extent of his background. So for him to say that to me, now that I look back on it, was like, whoa. It's like Steven Spielberg telling a young filmmaker, you got something here.
Mm.
And you don't really realize, you know, it's Steven Spielberg, but you don't realize the extent of who Steven
If
Spielberg
you don't know who
really
he
is.
you just know the name,
Exactly. You
right?
heard the name, or you
You
may
don't
have
know who
seen
he
him in
is.
something, maybe like the most recent movie.
Mhm.
You think, oh, okay, that movie blew up. Like, okay, cool. But you don't know he was part of like Schindler's List and E.T. and like all these other
Legendary,
great,
literally.
films that are cinematic history,
Mhm.
right? And I didn't know that with him. And so he's the one that really turned me on. Was like, hey man, you keep working at this, man. You got something. And I remember how I knew I was dedicated because it was twice I missed 2 ditching parties. And back then the ditching parties would be off the chain. And I was like, I told the homies, I said, nah, man, I'm gonna finish this. I gotta finish this piece, man. So for the, because the paper's coming out at a certain date or whatever it was. And I sat there and I did it, did my job, whatever. And I looked back on it years later and I was like, wow, I was always in it. I just didn't know how to get in, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Because they don't teach us that. Like, I remember I was an internship when I went back to school. And this guy was like, yeah, man, I used to go to journalism camp and I went to writing. I'm like, the hell is a journalism camp? Like, man, we don't know nothing about. Camp was basketball,
Right.
baseball, summer day camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? Free lunch at the park.
Right.
When your parents, if you didn't have your grandparents, your parents would, take you to hey, free lunch at the park between 12 and 3.
Right.
You had after what they call summertime after school activities, all that stuff. We didn't have nothing like that because we weren't afforded those opportunities from the Black community.
You didn't even aware that it
and
existed.
Communities of color. Right, exactly. But the guy I knew, he was he grew up in a predominantly white community. So he got exposed to other things. And it made me scratch my head like, damn, how many other people that don't know that these types of opportunities exist, right? And so it was kind of mind-boggling at first when he first told me about it. Like, he broke it down to me, like, yeah, man, we would go here, we'd be in the mountains and da, 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 da. And it was just like, wow. So basically it was basketball camp for writers, right? Or kids that wanted to write.
And how old were you when you attended this?
I never went. But I was, when I went back to school, because I went back to school when I was 26.
Now, when you say we back to school, we talking about college or are we talking about
College.
finishing high
I went
school?
back to
Okay.
college. Yeah, I went back to college. I finished high school. I got the hell out. And then I went to college for a year. Didn't know what I really wanted to do, so I kind of just blew it off and started working because I was like, look, I gotta get this money.
What was your first job?
My first job, honestly, when I was 9 years old, I was washing cars in the neighborhood, so I kind of created my own business.
Okay, 9 years old, your first job, and did you? I mean, I guess let me ask, when was your first employed job?
My first employed job was when I was 17 because I had 2 jobs. So I was working at Vons Market in Inglewood, and then I was help managing this record store down the street from there. So I was doing both jobs because I wanted money, and I was doing other stuff on top of that. And again, I wasn't no major, I don't want to sound like I was some kingpin. No,
Right.
no, not at all. I was doing little stuff that, again, I had no business doing. But, again, when you're young, you want money. You don't, like you said, you want to avoid that poverty, that poverty atmosphere, so to speak. And like I said, I grew up in a cool home. Like, both my parents worked. They worked extremely hard. We struggled, like anybody else working class. We struggled. My grandparents were a huge part of me growing up. They helped raise me along with my great aunt.
Well, let me ask you this: what is your relationship like with your parents? And let's start off with
my mom. And my mama. I mean, my mom was tight. You know what I mean? We had a little friction when the whole religious thing came to head. But outside of that, me and my mom we tight.
You want to talk about that? I mean, you can, or we don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I'm sure your parents had the same thing. They were raised in a religious type of setting, whether it's church, Baptist, Catholic. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, right? Like most Black families were raised in a church of some sort for the most part, right? And so my mom grew up in the religious sector, right? Back in the day. You know, my grandma was my grandma was born in Arkansas, raised a little bit in Mississippi before she moved out west.
Same. I got my Arkansas as
Right.
well.
So a lot of black folks at that time started migrating west.
Yep.
In 1964, my granny was the first black household on the block in Inglewood. They lived on the east side, like 46 and Avalon. Okay, that's where most black folks basically didn't pass the 110 freeway.
Right.
We know as the
I
110
still
freeway
don't.
right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying going westward.
Right.
So she was the first black, and this was right before the Watts riots popped off in 65. So this was like the tail end of 64, right before August of 65 when the Watts riots had popped off. And so you know, they raised my mom, you know, religious, you know, Catholic school, because Catholic schools back then were the best schools education wise to go to, but you had to be indoctrinated.
Right.
And then later on, you know, my granny was like Southern Baptist, right? So my granny, when I was like 5, 6 years old, my granny would take me to church.
Right.
Didn't understand a damn thing, but just knew I was with my granny, so I got to go here, right? As I got older, I think I went to church. We started going to church regularly because my pops decided he wanted to, you know, have salvation.
Right.
So, you know, we went. That's when I was 12. I'm sorry, and we went to Crenshaw Christian Center, and that's when I met 2 of my best friends, my brothers for life. Because I went to the school. They had a school on the campus, and so they were the first 2 to embrace me. Matter of fact, that our pictures on my Instagram page.
So you said that you and your mother,
yeah, we
see, but y'all see difference in the area.
Yeah,
of
because as time progressed, I was about 21, 22, and I went on this cross cultural trip to Brazil and Colombia, right? And so we was out there about 15, 16 days. And I ain't talking about we just up in the hotel chilling on the beach. No. We were at a hotel near the beach, but we didn't just hang and put the umbrellas up, sip Mai Tais. Nah. And we went to the jungles. We went to the most impoverished areas of Brazil. We went to Sao Paulo, Rio, a town called Sahel. We went to one of the oldest plantations in Brazil, where they had this, where the African slaves were originally placed. Because people don't realize only approximately 10% of the African slaves came to the United States.
Oh yeah, a lot of them were in Europe.
88% of the slaves that didn't jump overboard or turn the ship around and go back to the continent of Africa, 88% of them went to Central and South America, which is why you have a lot of dark complected Spanish speaking people in Central and South America, or Portuguese speaking people in Brazil. And then they have this class system where the light complected Brazilians reside over the darker complected Brazilians, which was all, you know, again, something that, you know, when you have white supremacy and you think about the Eurocentric nature and mentality that they enforced upon the people at that time, and they colonized those areas. That's why Brazilians mostly speak Portuguese, right? And the Spaniards came and had the people speaking Spanish. And so
you go to Brazil.
I go down to Brazil, go to Colombia, all these other places, and I just had an epiphany. And it was like, you know, because sometimes when you're out of your environment, you get a lot more clarity than you ever get. That's why when you hear people say, "Oh, I took a real vacation, like physically and mentally," and they got an epiphany or two, or got a thought, that's why, because you're out of your environment. You have to pay attention a lot more. And when I got back, I'm like, I don't know nothing about this. I don't know nothing about this Jesus cat. I don't know nothing about this God dude. I really don't know. And I realized I've been indoctrinated my whole life. And it's nobody's fault per se, but it's like, damn, they almost got me. And so I denounced everything at that time. I had what I call a spiritual breakdown. And I deconstructed everything for 2 years. I had to know that if God was truly real, I had to know all this stuff that I was taught. Was it real, or was it just complete bullshit and control? Right. And so when I came to my conclusion, I was like, no, I do believe in God, because, you know, God is a universal life force, whatever you want to call him, but it's still a universal life force. There's nobody greater than yourself. You know, yeah, we're great, but I'm not that arrogant to think that I don't need anything or anybody or any type of assistance, because we do live in a spiritual world. Right. So I came to the conclusion of that, denounced a lot of the Christianity stuff that didn't fit me, you know. But I say this even today, there are certain things in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Book of Confucius, African proverbs, Japanese haikus, whatever you read. There's a little bit of truth in everything. You just have to pick it out, and what's for you is for you.
I agree.
So my mom, we would clash because my mom was so indoctrinated. Years and years and years of that. It's hard to get off that crutch.
All right, everything else is wrong.
Exactly.
Right.
So we would have, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, I don't believe in that. I think you're wrong." And she didn't say it in a disrespectful way. It was based upon decades of what she was brought up in.
Right.
So it's
dedicated
hard
to her faith.
that.
That's what and what you're supposed to be.
And so it would be funny to me. And then she finally realized, like, yo, I ain't changing. If anything, I'm evolving, but I ain't changing. So I ain't been to a church, to be honest with you. I ain't been to a church since 2007.
So where are you now with your spirituality? Do you consider yourself religious? Are you religious? Do you have?
I believe in God and myself. I do believe that there are good spirits and there are evil spirits. I do believe in that. I do believe there's positive and negative energy. I do believe, I do believe in if you do something positive, you'll get it back. I do believe that giving is a universal law. I'm more of a spiritual nature. I denounce religion because I think it's nothing but control and dominance. But to each his own. I don't knock anybody that happens to be of a particular, religious background or faith. If you believe in that, that's what gets you through the day, by all means. Just don't try to put a steak on my plate. I'm gonna put a pork chop on yours.
I can't wait to clip this up because I think that we're gonna get some hits on this one. For that one, that's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I want to jump into your career, man. Like I said, we mentioned earlier, you are a journalist. You've been doing this for a long time. Entertainment, music. Shanti, the only thing I never seen you do is food at this point, But
I'm kind of a foodie. Yeah.
What was your first professional, like, all right, I'm in now. I'm going to do this. When did you say this is where I'm going?
Well, here's the interesting part about that, and I hopefully you'll understand why I'm saying it the way I am. So when I went back to school, I got an internship. There was a professor that knew somebody that at a particular radio station that they were offering internships, because at that time that's the best way to get into the business,
Right.
is get through internships before they started terminating them. And this is when we didn't get paid, right? Before the class action,
I want to, yep.
Before the class action suits started to become available, we weren't getting paid, right? So I took it anyway because I looked at this as an investment and an opportunity. So I interned at ESPN LA. I was going to school. Back then, I became a blogger, but bloggers back then were the antichrist of journalism and reporting. Now it's like, oh, how many hits do you get? Oh, whoa. Now you can break stories. Now if you got the access, it's totally different now in 2023. Back then in 2009, that wasn't flying. And so I interned 21 hours a week at ESPN LA. I worked part-time. I was still covering things because God rest his soul, who's one of my mentors was Eric Wade. He had been in the business for like 10 years as a photographer. And we met through a mutual person on Facebook. And so we found about a month later, we finally met up, kind of checked each other out. He's like, hey, man, I got an opportunity for you. You want to cover this high school game? And of course, the high school game happened to be Crenshaw against Dorsey.
Oh, yeah.
At night at Dorsey. So I'm like, remembering what I remember. So I'm waiting on this cat, right? I'm like, hey, man, this dude got like 10 minutes. Because if this dude don't show up in 10 minutes,
out of here.
Out. I'm walking back to the car and I'm getting the hell on. And it's sure enough, literally at 10 minutes, as I started to walk, I ran right into him. So we walked in, and that was I covered that game. That was the first time I met Keyshawn Johnson and talked to Keyshawn Johnson.
So how'd you cover? Like, did you had a microphone? You just had a paper and pen? Like, what? How are you covering games back then?
I had a recorder, and I want to say
a voice recorder.
Yeah, voice recorder. I'm sorry. And he had the camera because he was shooting photos. So he's like, man, I'll send you some photos if you want to write it up. That way you got some real photos. Like, cool. And so that was my very first gig. Then I covered a Westchester girls basketball game. That was my second one. And he paid me a little bit for that just for coming out. And then he gave me the pictures for that. And then I was interning. And he started giving me, hey, this event's about to happen over here, go over here. And so I was going to events, and it was funny. The same people that I was interning for at ESPN LA, some of those reporters would be showing up there. So we would start seeing each other. And they're like, how the hell did you get in here? Oh man, I just fell in. And they trying to scratch their head and figure out how the hell did this dude who's an intern get to the same level that I am, and I'm getting paid by the network to come here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny to me, and I don't think they were malicious when they did it, but they were just more surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think too, because me and this other guy named Charles, good dude, we were the top. We had 8 people in our intern class. We were the top 2 interns because we were working our asses off. Like anything they need. That's when I worked at when Max and Marcellus had a radio show here in Los Angeles. I was the intern there. I was answering phones. I was cutting up sound.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot of the dirt, even getting utensils at times, getting them a pen if they needed it. Just different stuff. And that's when I, got to know Max and Marcellus, and I know Marcellus to this day. I see Max from time to time, and because Max don't remember people's names like that, but he always will remember mine. And my other guy that I mentioned. So, it was just a great experience, and then we got a chance to really branch out. So I started working for independent sites, websites at that time. And I started. There was a big website called The Examiner, and so I started. They wanted me to write for them and report for them. So my very first team, professional team that I started covering was the LA Sparks of the WNBA.
Yeah, we talk. I mean, you said that before. You've been covering the Sparks specifically for how long?
I covered the Sparks for 12 years directly, but then I started covering the league more. I started covering the league probably the 11th year.
Because now the WNBA, I would say, is hot now, right? It took a while for it to kind of get here, but I think its popularity is probably the highest it's ever been.
The popularity is definitely growing. I started when people would shoot jokes at us for covering the league,
and that's what I'm talking about. You've been down since before it was cool.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Shout out to my man Mark Medina. Mark Medina, before he got on the Laker beat with the LA Times, they was having him at the Sparks games, and then he graduated to doing more Laker coverage for the LA Times at that time, if I'm not mistaken. And so, we were all in the trenches. Melissa Ronan, who's now, I believe, at USA Today or Sports Illustrated, she was covering the Sparks at one point back in the day. Great reporters. And it was just interesting to see everybody evolve and grow, And I think a lot of people use the WNBA as testing ground. Like, hey, if you want to test, see where your skill set is, this is the place to do it. And so I end up, getting acquainted with a lot of the players, especially Candace Parker. Like I know Candace to this day,
yeah, I mean,
has always treated me with respect.
I mean, like I said, I mean, y'all know each other for at least 12 years now. So
longer than that.
Right, even longer than that.
I came in 2010. Remember 09 season, she was pregnant with Layla. So she skipped the whole 09 season. She came back in 10. I actually went to a Sparks game in 08 when she and Lisa Leslie were on the same squad, when she won the MVP and she won Rookie of the Year in the same year. That's how you know how special Candace is, right? Definitely changed the game. And so the year she came back, that's when I got on the beat. So we kind of, maneuvered, and I was there for her first championship when she went back to the finals. Unfortunately, lost, came up short. I was there when Nneka Ogwumike got drafted, when all the coaches was going through a revolving door, up until the unfortunate Derek Fisher years.
Right. I mean, we don't get into that, but
buddy. Daddy Mac.
Hey, he's still finding success. I'm glad it didn't. Listen, I'm glad it didn't choke him.
Listen, I crack jokes, but Derek Fisher has always treated me with the utmost respect, and I've always treated him with that. He's always treated me well. Let me put it that way. I know we heard about his background and what he's allegedly done or didn't do, but he's always never shunned me off. He's never been rude, like some of the coaches I've encountered. over the course of my time. So I give Derek Fisher props for that.
Because you've been in a lot of important rooms, you know, a lot of important people. And I can say anything that happens, especially in sports, that is what I want to say, monumental. You're there. You're there. You don't have no problem getting access and being on television quite often. You're often on I can't think of it now, but what's the late night show that comes on all the time?
Yeah, I was on. I'll tell you a funny story about that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? But you're often on TV. How did you kind of get to that point? To now,
Um,
I mean, literally almost every sports show that exists, you've pretty much been there.
I mean, three things, man: grace of God, hard work, and dedication. And over the course of time, consistency. And that's what I tell anybody. You got to be consistent. If you're not going to be consistent, then why the hell should you do it? Right? Because nobody can trust you, you know? Funny story about that was that I've been in this business. Like I said, I got with the Examiner, covered the Sparks, covered the Houston. My first NFL team was the Houston Texans. So I
Mhm.
would fly down there. I would go to 3 games. I'd go to training camp. I go to 3 regular season games. I was covering that. Then I end up covering the San Diego Chargers at that time because in LA still had no football team. So covered that. Then I let the beat go for the Texans after the 4th season. I let that beat go, concentrated mostly on the Chargers, building that relationship with the Chargers. Um, and Bill Johnston, who was the old PR guy, I appreciate him so much because he took a chance. He gave me an opportunity to cover that team, and it was slow burn. Don't
Mm,
get it to it. He wasn't
mm,
just like, okay, head first. No, he had to check me out. He had to
mhm.
make sure I was thorough. At the time I didn't really understand it because I was kind of like, man, come on, man, I could do it. But now, as I look back on it, I realize why he did that because it made me a better reporter,
Mhm.
and it made me hungrier and really want to do it. And you got to see if people really want to do something. They just spur of the moment.
Yeah, I mean, ask a question to kind of relate to that.
Mhm.
Like, what difficulties have you found in this field?
Oh man.
Because podcasts exist. Everybody can create their own content. Before, you used to have some type of credibility, some type of backing. Right now, it's kind of a free for all. I mean, how many sports podcasts exist? How many
Oh,
people are at the games now covering? The access
it's
is
like
opened up.
it's like music, man. It's lack of creativity because anybody can do it, right? But it's about who is creative, who has an angle, who has the personality to get over the hump, if you know what I mean, and then the drive. Like you said, anybody can do it, and that's what I had to do when I covered the San Diego Chargers at the time until they became the LA Chargers.
Right.
And then the Rams came in town. The same thing with, shout out to my, to the director of communications artist Twyman, who actually gave me chances to cover the Rams, and opportunities to cover the Rams, and to this day. Later on, I got a chance to cover the Los Angeles Angels. I covered the LA Galaxy when you had David Beckham, Robbie Keane, when you had Landon Donovan, when they won all those MLS Cups. I was there for all of those. 2014, I was actually a PA for this one network. Um, and I covered one of to me, I grew up a hockey fan, right? So I
Mhm.
grew up an LA Kings fan. I used to sneak when I was little. These had these little radios, and the games would come on the radio. Bob Miller would be the play-by-play announcer. So I would sneak and I would listen to Kings games. Kings games be late at night.
Right.
So you had to go to bed. Your parents say you go to bed, you better have your ass in that bed.
Mhm.
My folks didn't play, but I just sneak and listen, to the Kings games,
Mhm.
right? And so I got in 2014, I got a chance to cover the Kings in the Stanley Cup. I covered 3 games. Credential media, I was a PA, still credential media, right?
Um.
So I did all of that. I did, eventually, covered other things. And to get to your question, the most difficult thing, I'll be honest with you, and that's still facing to this day, is ultimately discrimination and racism.
So you think being black is the biggest thing you have to overcome in sports journalism?
No, they will tell you your skin is your sin. My philosophy is my skin is my privilege, and I say that because, and I want to make sure that young black kids and young kids of color I want them to understand that just because they tell you no once is not the end of the world. You have to find a way around it. And you have to, yeah, there's a detour and it may slow you down a bit, but it should not deter you or stop you from getting to your ultimate destination.
Let me add to that because you went to war with, I believe, was it the NFL
No,
or was it an NFL
I
team?
went, no, this is the, I'm glad you led up
Yeah.
to that. I'm, so what happened was I had been covering the Los Angeles Chargers at that time. And I, it's hard to cover two teams in any sport, let alone, you know what I'm saying, the two basketball teams. LA has two damn near everything now,
Right.
right? So there's never a shortage. I mean, we got the entertainment sector with all the award shows and red carpets and film premieres, and I was doing that too. So I found a young guy that had agreed to cover the team for me. He said, "Yeah, man, if you get me in," he said, "Man, I'll do whatever you need me to do." I said, "Bet." Reached out to the head of PR at the time because Bill Johnston, who was
And
the
we still
head,
talking about the LA Chargers, right?
right? So
Okay.
Bill Johnston, who was the head of PR when they first moved, when they first moved to Los Angeles, something happened where he could no longer be the PR director. So they had to look for a new PR person who was here in Los Angeles. So they selected somebody else. Obviously, you had to get to know them. They have to get to know you, which is totally understandable. I was covering the league, but a lot of people from San Diego had transferred up here in the PR department, so they still knew me, right? So I think that definitely helped. And then one day I said, before the season gets underway, let me have a conversation and let me explain like what my plan is, what my vision is, and let's try to work it out. So we went back and forth, back and forth. He wasn't budging. Um, he told me and another journalist who had been covering the team a little longer, who happened to also be black. We were the two main black journalists that were consistent, meaning we cover practices, we cover the games, we cover, outside events. Like we were the main two, right? That we just weren't showing up on Sundays.
Right.
We would drive literally from LA to San Diego twice, 3 times a week. Okay, within the season, right? Whether that's practices and games. Okay. Worked our asses off. Earned our right. Be very, very clear. Earned our right to be in those seats.
Yeah.
Said to me, hey, I can't have you add another person. I'm not saying add another credential. I'm just saying, same outlet, same everything. It's just the people change.
Right.
Outlets do that all the time.
Right.
Networks do that all the time.
Right.
But you're going to single out, to me, the two black media outlets that have been the most consistent and that have been there. So I had to call them out. I used the power of my voice and responsible enough to use my platform to let other people know these are the injustices that we continue to face. And I didn't cover that team for a year. Recently, I can say this because I'll tell you, because I never told nobody this part. Recently had a conversation with a couple of people inside the PR department. So all I can say for right now is hopefully things are on the course of being mended and I'm able to get what I need to get in order to continue the coverage. And we'll see.
I mean, because you made a real stench out there. I mean, but I think
I didn't really do. And honestly, I did not do it for clout. I did not do it for attention, as as far as look at me. I did it because I wasn't the only one that had been suffering these injustices. I had talked to other reporters that happened to be, look like me or other people of color that had been
facing the
same type of discriminatory behavior. I never once called that man a racist. I never once called him out of his name. I always said what the facts were. And I will always continue to speak the facts because it's facts over feelings. And so hopefully at this point, we will turn that negative into a positive.
And I think it already did, because I remember off the back of what you did, I feel like a lot more people started to get access. They felt that. And then it kind of spiraled off. I remember it spiraling off. Then it became not just a Charger thing. it kind of became, well, what other teams are doing this? Other teams started to look at what was happening, and I feel like you kind of broke the.
I mean,
You made waves.
I hope it helped. And again, I didn't realize because there was some friends and colleagues of mine that worked at the NFL Network were like, "Man, I saw your video. What happened? Like, how did
Yeah.
it?" And I'm like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Because I'm just putting it out there. Like, I'm not trying to mass market it. Like I said, I'm not out here trying to call TMZ like, "Hey, I'm about to be at this restaurant with such and such." I'm just like, "Hey, enough is enough." You know, we oftentimes criticize people for using negative reasons for using social media. Here is a responsible, positive reason on why we need to address certain issues that aren't being addressed. And it's sad, and I'll say this too, Keith. There was some people that looked like me that was like behind the scenes because I found out they were talking. Cause see, I hear a lot of shit. Just because I ain't around you don't mean people don't come back and tell me shit. And I'm talking about reliable people, not just chatty patties.
Mhm.
I'm talking about reliable people that know me to be like, "Hey, bro, such and such over here talking about, man, why you still raising this issue about black media?" Da, 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 da. And my response would be, why the hell not? Hell, if folks didn't get mad and get flustered and do something about sitting in the back of the bus, our asses would still be in the back of the bus.
Yeah, I mean, you
You know
you
what I mean?
you
So
definitely
come
are
on.
fighting, have been fighting
But
for black media exposure for sure.
but I want people to understand I'm against discrimination of any kind. That's why you hear me speak about the LGBTQIA plus community and how they discriminated against. You'll hear me speak about the Latino community when I see people that I personally know being discriminated against because they are made fun of or not taken that serious because they may not have the master the English language wholeheartedly, but they know what the hell they're talking about, right? And to me, they're more intelligent because they know two languages.
Right.
Some of y'all can't even speak English correctly. How the hell you gonna go off somebody that is trying to master one of the hardest languages in the world, right? But still know what they're talking about, still be able to disseminate that type of information to their respective audiences. I mean, even with women, when I see women not being treated fairly, especially black women or women of color, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I have a problem with people. I think I spoke out. Some people got mad when I spoke about Vice President Kamala Harris, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, yeah." Kamala. Again, I'm not pro or anti, but right is right and wrong is wrong. And they were saying something, I felt very misogynistic and borderline racist. And I said, "Listen, Kamala is probably more intelligent than you, and she's probably more intelligent than the man sitting in the current seat." Okay. So
I ain't gonna argue with that.
don't denounce what I'm saying is don't denounce the woman and have preconceived notions just
Mhm.
because of the position she may be in or because she said something you don't agree with or you don't like.
Mhm.
You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to, again, you and I can disagree on something. I don't consider you an evil person. It's because
Right.
I disagree with you. We can disagree without being disagreeable,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's how I look at things. So I'm against discrimination of any kind. I don't believe I believe there's good and bad in every race, and that's how my philosophy will continue to be, and that's how I was raised.
Let me ask you this. What's a team? Because you've been around the block many times.
Oh, thank you.
In this
Man,
entertainment
I'm about
world.
to go to a
Right,
convalescent
right,
home, man.
right, right,
Hold on.
right. Many times in the entertainment world, and you came across people that were pleasant and some not so pleasant.
Mhm.
Give me a athlete or a team, even if you want to break it down, if you want to be more broad, that you feel like I'll never work with them. I'll never interview them again.
Well, I'll say this much, man. There's people on my list I will never interview ever in life. Whether
Have you met them already?
I have, yes.
I
Yes.
would like to hear who these people.
One person who I was really disappointed in because
I'm gonna post this clip, so I'm gonna tag them.
And first and foremost, I think that first of all, I think they're incredibly talented. Let me say that off the bat because I do believe they're incredibly talented. I think they can sing their ass off. I mean, especially to overcome some of the tragedy that they had faced that we knew that came up in the news, unfortunately, and they still were able to persevere. I commend them for that. I was at an event, and it was Jennifer Hudson. who I was so looking forward to talking to her because I'm like, wow, you know, if I can just get 2 questions from Jennifer Hudson, I'll be good, right? Just because I had like 3 or 4, but you know, you always have those questions that you
Mhm.
know, hey man, if I ever meet this person, I'm asking this and I'm asking this, and hey, if I can't get no more in, then we gonna have to set something up for later. But at least I got those 2 off. And her publicist was dragging her. This white publicist was dragging her around. And she's, oh no, she's busy. I'm like, she's standing right here. And so I'm like, Jennifer, can I get a question? She just looks at me like a deer in headlights and then walks off. And I said, wow, really? And I know you heard me because I'm closer to her than I am with you right now in this studio, right? We're literally 6 inches apart.
So, you know, people talk about that about black media, or especially black entertainers, not
And,
giving black outlets the opportunity.
and Jason Lee, shout out to Jason Lee from Hollywood Unlocked. He continues to talk about that. This is why I have such a tremendous amount of respect for that dude, man. I've met him
I
on
do
several
too.
occasions. Really good dude. Again, we all don't have to agree with each other on every single thing, but for the most part, I agree with a lot of that thing that brother says because he's spot on. And if anybody knows, it's him because he's in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And he's built something from nothing and continues to elevate Hollywood Unlocked and Hollywood Unlocked Impact Awards and you know countless other things he's doing with the Jason Lee show and you know things like that. So I commend that brother, man. That's somebody I definitely you know kind of look up to as far as just looking at watching his rise. You know what I mean, and even his evolution as a human being, man. He's grown, he's maturing. And I love to see those type of things. And he's pinpointed that precisely and saying, look, he's called out actually PR companies, some of the same PR companies that I've had, you know, not great experiences with that I've had to go to bat on. You talk about the thing with the Charger situation where I had to go use that same method on a particular PR company before they got to know me because I felt like they were being very discriminatory, not so much just against me, but 4 or 5 other black owned media and a Latino media outlet as well. Because a friend of mine, he had his own outlet. It was a Latino brother, him and his sister, and they were growing, you know, because Latino market is huge.
Yeah.
You know, there's a great market. You know what I mean? And you know, I said, oh man, the hell with this. Sick of this shit. So we gonna take it. We go take it social.
So Jennifer Hudson, anybody else who kind of don't really, because if not, because I mean, we gotta call them out, so that way they know that this is the problem.
You know, and I always say, man, the publicist, you don't work for the publicist. The publicist work for you. And a lot of times, which I've continued to witness on these carpets, is that they will strategically place you in a place where you can't get to the A-listers. Because the A-listers will bounce away from you because they didn't spend 15. Now they'll tell you, oh, please no more than 2 minutes, you know, per person. But then they let the bigger outlets get 10 to 15 minutes, like they're having an exclusive Barbara Walters interview.
Right.
And then by the time they come back, you know, they don't want to talk because they all worn out.
Yeah.
You wore them out.
I'm ready to just go sit down now. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, well, you know, and so, but let me say this too. There have been a lot of actors and actresses that have definitely come to, like, I had a chance to speak to Angela Bassett. Shout out to her.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Who's some people who do go out their way and make time for black outlets?
I mean, like I said, I talked to Angela Bassett. I have talked to most of the cast from Bel Air that's on Peacock. I've spoken with I think I had who did I think there's so many, bro. I'm trying to think.
I know how it goes. Cause you, I mean, you got 15 years of interviews in your head right now.
Who else came out? Bill Bellamy. The young lady from The Mandalorian, Katie, I forgot her last name. She was real cool.
Let me ask you the other question. How often do white entertainers?
Oh, we can grab them for
unless how
they try to block them too. It's the same. It's pretty much the same thing. They try to block them because I mean, I remember shout out to my man Evan Jackson from Young Bold and Regal. We were out at a Sundance earlier this year. And it was our first time covering Sundance. And so, man, he got the approval first. And then I'm sweating. I'm sweating like a slave. Like, damn, I ain't got my approval. Hold on, man. Hey, he's like, man, you got your approval yet? Nah, man, I ain't heard nothing, man. I'm about to hit him up. And so as soon as I sent, I literally about to send the email. Boop. Oh, you've been approved. Here's where you pick up your badge. Here's where you do. Cool. So I'm online trying to find my housing now. I gotta find my lodging now because I'm gonna be out there for about 4 or 5 days, right? And this Utah, it's cold. It's
Right.
It's cold and it seals ass out there.
Yeah, I was just in Utah maybe like 2 months ago, so I know.
And this is when we had that real inclement weather where it was super cold.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get it. We applied to all the stuff. They told us we were approved. So it was Anne Hathaway was premiering a movie and she was gonna hit the carpet. The woman tried to play us talking about, oh, I'm sorry, we were over. But I said, whose fault is that? So we got to suffer because you didn't properly.
I'm here.
You do your job. We're here.
Yeah.
We're outside in the cold waiting to get in.
Right. We're here.
So my man Evan got to be like, I want to say like 5'8", 5'9", right? But got the heart of a lion. My man turned Stokely Carmichael on him. And so it was like, hey, no, you told us this. Well, who's the supervisor? Who's in charge? Let me talk to them right now. Because you told us that. Here's the email, right? I'm falling back because I'm like, I'm about to play my role.
Right,
okay.
right. Good cop, bad cop. Here we go.
I ain't gotta be Batman today. I can be Nightwing.
Yeah.
I let him play Bruce. I let him be Batman.
Right.
So we got up in there. We pushed our way in there. And so they said, well, there's no room on the carpet, so you just gotta watch this. So we slide up, we wait, right? Because Anne Hathaway ain't hit the carpet yet. So we wait. And like, nah, we ain't gonna squeeze in yet. But as soon as we see her start coming closer and closer to where we are, we're gonna squeeze in that thing. So I was like, all right, cool. We're just gonna have to Suge Knight some people out the way. Right. Jerry Spring you out the studio.
Yeah.
Suge Knight you to the parking lot. So we get closer to these photographers like going just ape shit. So I walk in, he's like, dude just bumped me, try to get me out the way. I said, oh, so the LA mentality kicked back in. I looked at this dude like, dude got to be like 5'7", right?
Right.
I said, man, he don't know.
Right.
All right. I told my man Evan, so my man Evan slid in front of me because we're going to do that Bush push. Right? For y'all that may not be familiar, that Reggie Bush play against Notre Dame where Matt Leinart pushed him in the end zone.
Right.
So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do that Bush push. We're going to get you to the front because I can go over you. Right? Like my arms are long enough.
Right.
I got a 6'7" wingspan, so I can go over you. So dude hit me again. I was like, wow. Can I do the side shot? Oh. So then the other dude was in front of me. I said, whoop. I said, move. He looked and I said, you got something you want to say? So he said, he just looked at me. He mumbled something. I didn't care. So Anne Hathaway got over. So that's why if you look on my Instagram, I have that video. And we zoomed in, right? We yelled out questions and she heard it and she started talking. So we just hit the record button and start recording. And then we snuck into the film because we weren't supposed to be there. We was like, the hell with that? We don't sneak in.
Yeah.
So we snuck in, got in the back. We played the Rosa Parks role, got in the back. And phenomenal film.
History. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But hey,
it's the same thing, bro. I hate to be so long-winded.
But that's an interesting story because you got to fight for what you want, essentially, in any industry, especially when you are a black outlet. You got to fight a little bit harder. You got to do a little extra, and sometimes, like you said, you use that black privilege because hey, I know what I come with. 2 more questions, man. I'm gonna let you go. First one is about Nightcast Media, man. I mean, you worked for many outlets over the years, and you decided, hey, I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna start my own company, Nightcast Media. How's that been,
brother? Let me tell you. First of all, I thank God for the people I work with. I don't have anybody work for me; they work with me. We're partners, as far as I'm concerned. Even though I may be the person that had the vision and create the platform, but in order for you to have the foundation, you got to build rooms on top of the foundation. They are the rooms on top of the foundation.
Right.
Wouldn't be a complete establishment if we didn't have that. And we still growing. We still adding on, man. We got so much stuff we about to add on to. It's not even funny. I was at NBC for about 1.5 years almost. And just things didn't work out, unfortunately, the way they could have worked out. At least I thought they could have worked out, but I know I did a good job. And so, the way contract played out, as far as the digital and reporting and things of that nature. And I'm always appreciative to everybody at NBC for allowing me the opportunity to even be there.
Right.
To even say, hey man, I'm part of the Peacock. I was once part of the Peacock.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We grew up. Right. We grew up watching Peacock Network, Cosby Show, Different World, and all these other great shows that they, Friends and all these other great shows that they've been able to be a part of, the news, Tom Brokaw and everything. So, just to be a part of that machine, man, was a fantastic thing. But I learned quite a bit from being inside that machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said I would never be without ever again. So it's time for me to start to create my own. And I do believe that was the universe telling me, yo, it's all right, youngster, it's time for you to get out the nest and build your own, your own platform. And so that's what I started doing. So at first I connected with somebody who was in the industry, and unfortunately that didn't work out. And that's when I went on my own. So there was another company that we had both created. Didn't work out. I was doing most of the heavy lifting. I said, well, shit, if I did this, I can do it on my own.
Right.
Just put the right people around me. And I always want smarter people around me, because I don't want to be the smartest one in the room.
Nope.
That's stupid.
That's
right?
stupid. You're the dumbest person.
Man, that's hustling backwards times 10. So to avoid that situation, I need some people to have my back like a spinal cord. And so we gonna, here's my vision. Here's how we're gonna move. I want to move correctly. And so that's when we created, I started getting all the contacts that I had, calling in a couple favors that I needed.
Yeah, and then because you still are who you are. It doesn't matter what company represents you. I mean, you are still Nick Hamilton. So, and you represent the company wherever you go. So you really represent yourself. Let's start there. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't think it would be an issue for you, but I want to know my question was, what's been your greatest challenge since you've been on your own?
Just access, man. It's just getting the access to capital. Sometimes the access, I mean, I'm sure you've done as a business owner, the opportunities, because they haven't heard the name, or the name may not be ringing bells. And it's just the advertising and the marketing opportunities, I think. And as we continue to evolve and grow, I think we learn a lot just on our side. Like, I have to take some responsibility and not in being ignorant to certain things that I didn't allow myself to be privy to, so I can't totally 100% point the finger. I have to absolve some of that responsibility, but majority of it, it's about marketing and advertising. And so we have to have the access to capital in order to fund our businesses the way that we need to fund them, in order to thrive and be able to, because you can't tell me, I tell anybody this, I continue to work for other, I work in conjunction with other outlets. Like, Nightcast Media works with Fortune 500 companies. Okay. We work with Hulu. We work with Disney. We work with A24. We work with certain PR companies that are top notch. We work with Sunshine Sachs. We've worked with, countless other companies, Apple TV. We're starting to work with them now, covering events and things of that nature. That's what I mean by that. So we work, again, I'm a contributor for BBC. I'm a contributor. I host a show every week on Sirius XM, the NH Experience, every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, Sirius XM channel 145, and all streaming platforms. Make sure y'all check that out. But listen, how does a guy who's independent get all the way to BBC on radio and television for over a year and be a paid correspondent? And how they announced me, a host on Sirius XM, founder of Nightcast Media.
Beautiful.
You know how that happens? Again, 3 things: grace of God, hard work, and dedication. That's what that's about. And that's why I continue to keep working. And I tell anybody, man, I tell anybody in your crew, I don't sound like I'm a rapper. Tell anybody in your crew, tell you, look, we put my resume up against anybody. I'll take the Pepsi challenge any day.
No, honestly,
let's do it. You want to interview? You want to test the interviewing skills? Let's go.
Man, I honestly like.
Ain't nobody seeing me.
Nah, I can't. No, I can't. Nah, honestly, no, it's not a whole lot of people, and even people who maybe on TV every day or got bigger
Let's
deals,
go.
they don't have still the ground level work that you put in real footsteps.
Thank you. No, let's
For
go.
real.
Let's
for real.
go. And that's not a disrespect. I don't mean that to be disrespectful to anybody.
Nah.
But if I don't believe I'm the best, then what the hell am I doing? If I don't believe I can compete with guys like Kevin Frazier, who've done it magnificently for years. If I don't believe I can compete with the Rob Parkers of the world, if I don't believe I can compete with the Stephen A. Smiths or the Dan Patricks or Ryan Seacrest or anybody like that, people that I look up to, people I actually have a respect for, the Kerry Champions of the world, the Jamel Hills of the world, the Michael Smiths, and so on. If I don't believe I could compete with those individuals and many others, then what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah, because you don't even deserve to be in a conversation.
Don't tell me what I can't do, because I'm gonna show you what I can do, and I'm gonna bust your ass while I do it. So, like I say, I put mine up against anybody. I put my resume up against anybody, and I normally don't flex like that because I don't feel like it's, I don't have to do that. I know who I am. That's why I have a problem trying to give people opportunity, because there were people that invested in me and believed in me, even at certain points where I doubted myself. And they took a chance on me, and they gave me opportunities and created lanes for me. There are countless people, man. I have to bring out a list, man, of people that have helped me along the way. And you talk about earlier about television. It took me 8 years to get on television, man. It took me 8 years to get a segment on television. Fred Rogan, who was at NBC for many, many years, I saw him at Super Bowl in 2019 in Atlanta at Radio Row, because he had a radio show, which he still does, on AM 570 here in Los Angeles, which is an iHeart radio station. And he said, man, how come you haven't been on my show? I said, Fred, I don't know why I've been on show. Maybe you should ask yourself that. I came at him just like that. And he was like, okay. He said, contact this person. It was about a month and a half. I got on radio, and I was coming on radio he had me coming on radio maybe once a week. And then we extended that to television. And then I was on Going Rogan.
That's what that's show. I was like, yep.
For 2.5 years before, I wasn't on there. You know what I'm saying? It just, we did our time.
Yeah.
And I will always, no matter what, I will always appreciate him for giving me the opportunity to be on television, because that opened up doors. Like, I've been on KCBS KCAL a couple of times. I've been on Spectrum News.
You've been on Fox Soul, right?
I mean, I've been on Fox Soul.
You've been all over the place, man.
And then that's what graduated me to BBC. So again, it's all, and I still got more work to do. There's other stations.
Listen.
Trust me, I'm gonna be on TV. You best believe you record this right now and hold on to this 5 years from now. I'm gonna tell you now, I'm gonna be on TV. I'm gonna be on one of these CNN, MSNBC, Fox Business, whatever television, whatever broadcast that are out there at this time. I will be on it at some point on a semi-regular basis. I'm telling you right now.
Man, look, I tell you like this. You already on TV. You know what I'm saying? You've been on TV.
Hey, man, I'm on TV right now. Shit, man. Shout out to the good news.
I appreciate you, man. And that's why when I called, I said, man, let me get this man before I can't get him no more, man. So
man. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something, Keith, and I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. My team had to kind of reel me in, because they're like, hey, man, look, it's time for you to graduate now. And I'm like, what? I said, man, I'm doing that. I'm running down the.
Yeah.
What you mean I ain't got no? I'm thinking they come, and I had to chill, because oftentimes we get so defensive because of the environments that we have to be defensive in. You can take your guard down.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we don't necessarily adjust to that, and we have to.
Especially when people that love you.
Exactly. And people that want to see, because your success is based upon their success.
Yeah.
Right. So they say, nah, man, look. Now on, here's the rules. Like I tell people all the time, I don't care if you got 20 followers or 20,000 followers. If you want me on your show, podcast, whatever, I'll come on. If I can do it, if I don't have anything previously scheduled, I'll come on. I have no problem with that. I can't, but here's the thing now. You got 20 minutes of my time. If you do a digital video show, and it's not like a major platform, because I know what a major platform is going on. That's fine. We negotiate that time, whatever. But you got 30 minutes of my time.
I'm not mad at that.
Because my time, I have to be able to regulate my time because my time is an investment. My time is also, I have to take accountability of every moment I have. Being a single father, being a dad on top of being a business owner, and being able to still have to go out here and still work, my time has to be accounted for.
Yes.
And so this is why I said, dude, I have a lot of stuff going on. I'm producing and EPing a digital WNBA show that the league is taking a look at.
Nice.
Jackie Ray is the host. Shout out to her who does a good job, a really great
job. Jackie
job.
Ray, man. I love Jackie Ray.
You know, the team over there at the studio that we produce it. You know, I got my radio show that we're starting to evolve and do some other things. I mean, my radio show was just on Radio Row at the NFL Super Bowl in Arizona.
Wow.
We're looking to go back when they go to Vegas next year. Shout out to my producer Jake Warner, big brother Jake. You know, he does an immaculate job with the sound and the quality. You know, I'm taking on some other shows. I'm working with some other companies right now, working out some things. And so, and in addition to my son, you know, who is autistic, he's on the medium side of the spectrum. He needs that attention that time. So I have to dedicate so much time and attention to him while trying to fight battles for him in these funky ass school districts that ain't worth the damn.
Right.
So, and you know, I gotta ride for him and let him know I have his back as he continues to grow.
Yeah.
You know, my son is still young. So I have to, you know, I mean, you're a parent, so you understand there has to be that time. So everything has to be accounted for. And so if it makes sense and it's going to be left at a decimal point, then I'm there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense and is to the right of the decimal point, you won't see me like fat people in steam rooms.
You know, and I honestly, as we wrap this up, man, being a parent does make you definitely map your time out a little bit differently, because you like, man, whatever, I could be doing this. I could be doing this with my son. Even if I wanted to go to and rest because I got to deal with my kids or whatever, that's my time. So if I'm giving it to you, it's valuable, and which I appreciate you coming today, man, and giving me your time, because I do know how valuable it is and respect that. My last question for you, man, and we out of here, is if there's young journalists. I went to NABJ last year, right? And I'm like,
see, I wanted to go in Vegas, right? It was popping, right?
Yeah, it was.
See, I couldn't go because again, daddy duty calls.
Nah, hey man, which is more important.
So
ain't that you already don't know.
But I will say this real quick. I was talking to a friend, a colleague of mine, and he was like, "Man, we brought your name up." I'm like, "Oh shit, would you hear?" Right? Again, defense, right?
Right.
No, it was good, man. Your name was coming up in some circles. I was like, oh, same thing I've been praying for,
bro. You that guy? So, I don't know what you thinking. Well, you already know that.
Nah,
yeah, listen, you know that.
I'm that guy because I know I'm not. Just like I know I'm great. I'm great because I know I'm not. I know I got many miles to go before I sleep.
Well, I'll just disagree with you. So whatever.
That's cool. We can agree
you that guy.
Disagree.
You that guy. And you know it too. But if there's any advice you want to give to youngins out there, because even now, you know, I teach at LA Mission College, and there's a lot of people.
Nice. Congratulations, Professor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And there's a lot of young journalists, and a lot of them are going to go into entertainment. That's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to those who are looking to follow in your footsteps?
Same thing I would say to the kids I've talked to in colleges and in certain high schools when I've gone to speak, at their respective classes. Have a fucking personality. Number one. Number two, know exactly where you want to be. You may not start there, but know your address. DJ Head, shout out to DJ Head. He has this great saying that I've adopted. What is your address? And people say, what do you mean? And he explained it brilliantly. He says, if you're on Amazon, you got an item. Pick the item, pick the quantity. You got the money. And you type in what you want, and it says, ship to. And you don't put anything. You just hit send. And it keeps saying, hey, ship to. You're like, man, this thing is discriminatory. Man, this thing sucks. It's broken. No. Where are they going to ship the package if they don't have a destination? So what is your ultimate destination? Right? So know what your ultimate destination is in this business. and then know what you're going to tolerate and not tolerate. Be honest with yourself, right? And then network your ass off. Because it's not about what you know, it's who you know. I know it's an old saying, and I know people run it into the ground, but it's so evidently true. I'm on a campaign trail. I've been on a campaign trail for a minute. I'm still on there. Watch when I shoot these new pictures, Keith. You're gonna be like, I'm gonna send you these new pictures I didn't shot.
Oh man, he must,
Oh, yeah.
he must have went to the barbershop.
Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. I'm just gonna tell y'all. Just wait.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send them to you. But I'm just saying you gotta be on that campaign trail. We see these presidential candidates or these people in the Senate, campaigning for positions. They on the trail. They like, hey man, boom, boom, they out here. Yeah. They ain't scared. They ain't hiding behind no computer. They ain't sitting behind keyboards. They out. Yeah, they doing that too. But they out here in these streets. That's why I tell people, and you ain't gonna outwork me because I'm out here in these streets. And I get so disappointed, man, because when I see that some people have such potential and they not farther ahead, I said, man, you should be farther ahead than I am. Because I got a kid, and that's going to take so much time out of my schedule because I have to dedicate to make sure that we raise this kid right. And I have to raise this kid in a way where they become a productive member of society when they get old enough, when they get our age, even before that. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you on the same pathway. So that's going to take a chunk of my time right there. So the fact that you don't have any kids, you ain't married. Now you may have to pay rent or you got your bills. Well, we all got mortgage, rent, bills, groceries. We all got that. We all on even playing when it comes to that. Right. Unless you got some sugar daddy or some sugar mama. We all got that. Now, the fact that you don't have any other responsibilities other than that, like I said, marriage, kids, why aren't you farther than me? What the hell are you doing out here besides playing with yourself? Well, what? So that's my advice to people. Yeah. Be about your business, be about your paper, but be about your character. Yeah. And if you do that, everybody ain't go. Let me tell you something. Some people have negative stuff to say about me. When I give a damn, you'll be the first to know. I don't give a shit what you think.
I'm glad you're talking about me. I'm glad you're talking about me.
Free publicity.
Yep. Glad you're talking about me.
Free publicity. But the people that's inside of my circumference that I know that care about me, even when I don't want to hear their criticism, but I need to hear their criticism, I value those people. Yeah. Because they want to see me succeed. They want to see me win. I want to see everybody out here win. Yeah. I don't care who it is. I want to see everybody win. I don't have to step on you. You don't have to step on me to make yourself bigger.
In the great words of Nip, I'm not in the way of what you're reaching for.
Not at all.
I'm not in the way of what you're reaching for.
Not at all, brother. It's plenty food out here for us to eat. It's plenty food out here for us.
Unlimited. It's unlimited food, actually.
We can. But you have to pay. But here's the thing: you have to pay attention to your surroundings, and you have to keep your head on the swivel. You have to pay attention economically. You have to pay attention spiritually. You have to pay attention physically, because economically, we don't know what's going to happen in the coming months into 24. I don't know when you're going to air this, but we are on the verge of two major situations happening, meaning strikes, meaning the Writers Guild of America is striking currently. And we're on the potential cusp of SAG-AFTRA, which are the actors and actresses, striking, which is going to be catastrophic.
That's going to change a lot.
And
shout out to Tubi.
It's going
they about to blow up after that.
Oh God, no!
We're not gonna talk about that, man. We're gonna end it there, man. Once again, man, I appreciate you coming out, man, spending time with me.
Thank you, man.
Chopping up, man. It's good to catch up with you, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't know already who he was, if you did, congratulations. You didn't. I love to introduce people who you may not know, who you need to know. So, as always, you've just been introduced to Mr. Nick Hamilton, LA.
Thank you so much.